kick you up with an intro. So from Bouzy Champagne, coming in at, I don't know your weight and height, but you know,
He's tall.
What'd you say?
I said he's tall.
He's tall. He's very tall. Quentin Paillard here is gonna talk champagne with us, and we're super excited because we love your family's wines, and we're gonna open this bad boy to start, right?
Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah. So, Quentin, just tell us what we got here. You know more about it.
We've got Bouzy, 2012, La Grande Récolte.
Yeah,
exactly. We've drank a few bottles of this already. Just full. How many bottles have we had? I think we've had 3 or 4 of these bottles together already.
Yeah, we've had a few of these bottles.
Vintage.
It's a pretty delicious cuvee, but
it really is.
Yeah.
What about this year? I mean, this year is killer, obviously, right?
12, yeah. I mean, it's one of the best in the last 20 years. Mm-hmm. You had 02, 08, 12, and probably 19. Only time will tell, but yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty damn good year.
That digs into some of our first questions there as well. But the other thing I want to throw in, because it will be there, you can find us on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok. You can also find us on Spotify soon, so subscribe. We get the nuns fart to kick it off here. We definitely want to ask, kind of dig in while he's getting the champagne poured, because you can see earlier I was just pouring all over the table, so we're going to have him do it. You know, if we look at your wines, you know, there's this quiet confidence in Pierre Paillard. It's this, you know, such an elegant wine, and the viticulture and winemaking. You know, what defines your wines from your viticulture style? And I guess the bigger question is we were just talking about that, is all champagne is aged, like, you know, and what wine in your cellar right now is surprising you the most with age for that new vintage? We were talking about 12, we were talking about, you know, 90, 96, all these crazy, you know, what do you think is going to be the next big vintage?
Well, I think 19 is probably the vintage that of our generation that was warm, vinous vintage.
Cheers.
Cheers.
It came in the trilogy of 3 vintages, 18, 19, and 20, which in the past in Champagne only really happened like once, 88, 89, and 90, which were also very warm and dry vintages, especially for 90. So yeah, 19 is probably the vintage that we look the most after, that we trade the most wine among ourselves with producers in Champagne. Like,
that's the one you guys have been popping.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you 6 bottles of 19, give me 6 bottles of 19, you know.
Okay, that sounds great. Let's do that.
Well, it seems too as the warmer vintages are quite variation. You know, we're talking about global warming, but the warmer vintages of Champagne seem to be beneficial to Champagne as opposed to some other places.
To some extent, yes. It's also put the spotlight on viticulture. There is, with the rise of temperature, harvest happening end of August, early September, you get like an hour extra of sunshine during the harvest. That when you do harvest end of September, during the day, you know, the sun rise later and falls down sooner. So we definitely gets more ripeness, but we also get more heat, and with that, you tend to also drop acidity levels.
Yeah.
So the wines of Champagne have dropped acidity levels in the last 15 years. You know, some vintages are closer in balance to white wine from Burgundy, let's say.
Yeah.
You know, so what saves us is the soil, is the chalk, and having pH level which are still relatively low. Even in a vintage like 19s, you're looking at pH like close to 3, which if you're not in the wine industry or not wine techie, 3 is very low pH in wine. Like a white still wine, you're looking at 3.4, 3.5 in a warm vintage. So having low pH bring a lot of sapidity, salinity, makes you salivate. So even though we have lower acidity, we still have a very low pH at the condition that the soil is healthy. That's why with warmer vintages, we do get riper fruit, lower acidity. But if you have bad viticulture, you do not make very good wine.
To confess, and Quentin knows I love putting things in his mouth, but
I'm pulling away from that.
But I think when I was visiting you in March, you actually said you had an opportunity to buy some vineyards that did not have a chalk subsoil, and you say I didn't want to buy them because I don't know how to make champagne that isn't on chalk.
That is the truth. Yeah, I do not know that. I don't know. I don't have any experience doing that. So
yeah. So you're again, I think that's a good representation that for you, the chalk is one of the obviously the foundations that makes great champagne great champagne.
Well, you got 8 generations, and you switch to something else. That's a lot of. It's a big move, I would imagine, right? So what are you guys going to do with them?
What do you mean?
The new vineyards you mentioned that.
Well, since 18, we wanted with my brother to go outside of what we already knew. It's like kind of like you. We met not too long ago, and I've gathered that you like new projects and keeping on innovations and doing
Josh,
things.
I'm very familiar with this scenario. Yes.
But for us, it goes back to being wine lovers, having work for myself, for example, in the restaurants. Before I came back at the winery, where you try lots of wine, and you realize one grape provides very different emotion. And in Champagne, you live in this world traditional of blend. However, we live into an area, the Montagne d'Arras, where there is significant difference between the village. And how cool is to be able to vinify wine from your neighbor village and to make, very different wine. So since 18, we started to venture outside of what we knew, which is fun, It's always the first time. In 2018, we vinified Meunier for the first time in the history of my family, in the village called Lude, and Pinot Noir from Verzenay, which are 2 north-facing vineyards, which in the recent vintages that we've had, it's like 19 warm vintages, those north-facing vineyards are just fire.
Nice.
Yeah.
You brought up working with your brother, I think, is one of my big questions, because I love my brother to death, but I don't know working with my brother would be the wisest move. Do you? What are those challenges? How do you guys define your roles in the vineyards or in the production? And then how do you settle disputes? I'm sure there are.
Settle dispute over wine.
Perfect. That's all I like to do, settle my disputes.
But disputes have evolved over time. They are less intense, I think. When you start to work with anyone, I think it takes time to understand each other's strengths and each other's responsibility. Now we are in a great spot. We worked with our father for almost 6 years together. And when my father retired in 18, basically it was natural that my brother will take on the responsibility more for the vineyards, and I will handle more the cellar. And the wine, basically, we do together. Because that's fundamental, like the strategy, the wine, direction is we do that together. Yeah. But yeah, it's cool. When you do a lot more than when you're alone.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think sometimes sharing the burden of the decision, the final decision, can be easier in some way to know, well, if we were wrong, we were wrong together.
Yeah, that's true.
It's good to have that deciding vote, though, and like that balance, because I'm sure you probably already know like what your brother likes and what you like, and you guys know what each other likes to an extent, right? Is that you already kind of have that understanding to a degree, or?
Yeah. I think for us, at least, it works because we're not involved in daily. He does his thing, I do my things, and then we meet for not necessarily just important stuff, but we meet, throughout the day, throughout the week. So we're not on each other's like shoulders.
Yeah.
Always.
You bring 2 different perspectives, which is
exactly.
good. Yeah.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah.
So based on that and kind of jumping off in the conversation as we kind of dig into to that a little bit more, like, when we think of Bouzy and we think of, you guys obviously have a deep, generational space there, what do we need to know about what is special about Bouzy and its terroir versus, Abernay down the road or another area, like what is that, special sauce you think that you guys have there? Obviously you're working on some of these new, vineyards and these the projects in Ludes, the projects in other areas with different, varietals, but what's so special about Bouzy that?
Well, there's tradition for growing Pinot Noir historically to produce and make still wine. And I think even from that understanding, when you put your hand onto the fruit that goes through macerations, you learn a lot about the winemaking, so to speak, because when you make sparkling wine, the fruit, is handled just for a couple hours, like 3-4 hours during the press. And that time is also very important. But I think in Bouzy, we have some more perspective. in the world of wine because we're vinifying not only Champagne but also still red. And there are some things when you vinify wine for red that's very different than sparkling. So I think our spectrum, our vision in Bouzy, it's always been a village that had many growers who started to make wine at the early stage. You know, you go to Champagne in some villages and you have 1-2 growers and the rest is co-ops. In Bouzy, there are many growers who make wine under their own label with their own press.
And have been doing so for a
They've
much
been doing
longer time.
for a while.
It's pretty good for growing Pinot Noir there. Just a tad, right?
Yeah, but it's also the sense of independency. You know, we've been doing it for a while. We had some wells that other areas of Champagne didn't have because we were able to sell still wine and then wine or grapes that were riper than everywhere else in Champagne because we're a south-facing slope. You know, so we're pretty far from the river. Actually, you know, you could normally in the past, you know, the village that did the best were the ones that they could ship the wine on the river to Paris. Let's say, i.e., you know, the wine on the Marne.
And you're just talking about from a marketing alone ability, right? Just access.
Yeah, just accessibility for sure. Logistic-wise, it's the wines that were very close to the river could ship the wine easier to be sold. So there was an appeal from that alone.
I mean, that's intriguing. You know, obviously, we're all about the business side of things here too. You know, and like how that's something I didn't really consider, but makes a ton of sense.
That's talking about you know, one thing that you and I kind of harped on a lot too is you guys have done a really good job at the domain as of recently, restructuring it to be adapted to a modern tourism mindset, which I think is incredible because I think you and I talked about one of the challenges I think that we're all facing specifically is Champagne is not a great place to visit historically. It's very much a trade place.
It's true.
I mean, it hasn't been that welcoming. There's not a lot of hotels. There's not a lot of great food scene per se. But I think what you and I talked about is like to get new guests to come and to understand the power of Champagne, we must be more welcoming, right? And create a total experience. I think you guys have done a very good job in the new facility. I would have loved to eat at the restaurant, but I understand the challenges there. But thank you for lunch. But can you talk about where your mindset was in creating this space? And for what I'm talking about, Quentin and his brother put a lot of money into the new infrastructure of an existing building, but to make it very much so accepting of people coming, having a full day there, seeing the vineyards. You can drive this amazing little car. It's a lot of fun.
The car on the website, right? We can drive that around. That's great.
It's a lot of fun. And you know, and you can eat at the chef's counter, and you can go down to the cellars, which may be the most beautiful, I think, kind of criers that I've seen in Champagne. So anyway, I think you've done a very good job. But
thanks.
Can you talk about what that mindset was for doing that?
To be honest, the very, very beginning of that idea was right away with my brother. 10 years ago, we had the dream to have a chef that could cook for us and for our team.
Yeah.
And of course, it's a silly dream, you know, like we're a winery 10 years ago. My father was selling wine. He was successful, but nowhere in the world we were going to have a chef at the winery.
Sure.
How do you make that happen? Well, 10 years later, this come a time we have to make a big investment actually at the winery to actually extend our cellar in relation to all the new cuvées that we have since 2018. Because those wines are on lease for 5 years at least. So you need space to put them.
Yeah.
So we're like, all right, this big investment we have to make. It's in the middle of the winery. And then COVID happens. And we're like, wow, okay, maybe it's not the wisest time to do this large investment into something that's just cellaring wine. It's important, of course, but maybe there are some other cellars in the village that we could rent in the meantime. So we actually found some cellar in the chalk, in Bouzy, to rent. And we were like, all right, well, maybe if we're not building something that doesn't bring wealth, let's invest into something that brings us pleasure.
Yeah.
And let's make it open so it's variable, you know. So of course, having a chef for winery our size, it's a bit silly. But the DNA of our project is the same. Like my team, even though we should not say it because technically it's not for silly tax purpose. We're not supposed to provide free food to our employee, but we do it anyway. Otherwise, they have to claim that it's very silly. But my team eats the food that our chef makes
It's-
for us every day. And we have a garden now running, so that's the great advantage. And of course, us, we benefit from that. But that's the little backstory of that project. And of course, we saw how do we make that viable? What message do we give to people? And so we just speak a message that's message of grower, of family. You know, we speak wine, we speak food. We from our experience back in hospitality, I think we try to welcome people with open arm and with, you know, a sense of happiness, you know, because in France sometimes we lack, I think, a sense of happiness. I think a sense of pleasure of welcoming people, which I think in the US you guys are very good at.
I don't know. You guys have a lot of joie de vivre.
Yes, it's true, but you want your guests to feel welcome.
I agree with that.
So
I think it's a
intimate
very
space.
smart investment. I think that you guys, more than any producer we visited there, have had the future mindset, which I think is there's a balance between Napa Valley and Burgundy, where there's got to be, I think, if a place wants its future, it's got to think about the experience the guests have, because guests want to come to the sources more and more.
Yeah.
And I think that you guys have done a very smart thing. And
Thank you.
I think the space is gorgeous. So that's a marketing ploy. Go and visit.
I'm excited to go. You've already sold me. I haven't.
Yeah,
been.
yeah,
So I mean, you know, obviously we look at that growth and what that looks like here where we're at here in Bourbon country here, and like I remember when you'd go to a facility, you know, just 10 years ago, and they had no tourism. You just showed up, knock on the door, and they're like, "Can we get a tasting?" And they're like, "Sure." You walk in, and now it's like you know, you gotta, even though we know those folks quite well, it's like you gotta call like, you know, 6 months ahead, and it's a great thing for them because they're making a lot of incremental capital through sales at the distilleries, and I think that's a huge opportunity for.
I think the
for you
sales
guys,
is
right?
a part of it, but I think in more general, it's the long-term viewpoint of how do you get people to love and buy into
Sure.
these products.
And
And
it's experiential. It's like that,
Yes.
and I think that's what a lot of, you know, or some of the folks around here do well is that you know, once they come to your facility and they sit with you and have a meal, then that's lifelong. They're in, right?
Sure.
You know, and I think ultimately that's super amazing. But as we talk about the business of champagne, obviously, you know, it's and wine in general, especially from Europe, it's become even more complicated or confusing, I should say, in the last like year. And so, you know, as we look at like, you know, I think that's the obvious things, the tariffs and the you know, that type of thing. But, you know, what are the things that are not obvious that are really challenging for sales in the U.S. or sales globally, you know, on the business side that, you know, what things that we wouldn't think of aside from tariffs and importing and, you know, who your importer is, all these types of things. I mean, be curious to hear a little bit more, you know, from someone who has to deal with that on a daily basis, you know.
You mean, how do you make your sales effective? How do you...
Yeah, I guess what are the biggest challenges that you have beyond tariffs as a selling wine globally, and particularly in the U.S. market?
The biggest challenge, I don't know. It's finding the right partner, and having people who are behind the brand or who believe in the wines. I think it goes hand to hand. When the wines are great, the salespeople, the team is gonna be excited about it. They want to share the story about it. And when the wine are sincere and they give you emotion, and the price also is a component for sure. If you know this, it's very important for us. For example, at Paillard, that we keep the cuvée that we make the most, les parcelles from Bouzy, at a price point where new generations that come in the restaurants can continue to pour their wine and talk about it with their guests. Otherwise, it sits on the wine list and it's a museum wine list, you know. And while you can contemplate that wine list as a winemaker and be very happy, you know, like, oh, you're in those fancy Michelin star restaurants places, but I think it's looking at a short-term perspective, because in 1 or 2 generations, the people will read about you only in books and from hearsay from old dudes who've stayed on the floor long enough to tell you that wine is great. But if you never actually had
And
the
we've
chance
all
to
run
try
into
it.
those problems already, I think, from previous generations.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and some
We
other
know those wines. We know what you're talking about, right? And you want to like, secure that winemaking philosophy and keep it there and the quality there, but you want more people to drink your wines, right? I mean, and so how do you get more people tasting your wines?
I think you confessed this. We were just on the car right here. I think you said that education is really big for you, right?
It's massive.
To go to the actual buyers and specifically talking to the teams that they have on the floor, the people that can sell your story when they understand the wine.
I mean,
Right?
I think to that point, I mean, me and John were talking about this yesterday, is like, I do consulting for lots of big on-premise restaurant groups and hotels.
Yeah.
And, that COVID glut is real. I mean, that there's all these, fantastic people, got sucked out of the industry, and it's a real challenge.
I'd love to hear this because we talked about that in March
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah,
Your view on that?
Well, I think one of the greatest strengths in is knowledge, and that knowledge it's always, I think, the best to hear it from someone who's been working the floor at a specific restaurant or someone working at a specific retailer, because they know their clientele. So instead of, let's say, reading about a winery from a book, the guy is going to filter out the information that his guests can actually comprehend, because he knows their level of knowledge. He knows their level of ability to actually listen to you. And some places, people are not going to listen, or if they do, you have to say 2 words. So if you're not aware of that, you might say too much or too little. So maybe with COVID, it was time to move on for some people from that floor job or that retail job, and maybe some newer generation had to relearn, the trade, or relearn, about the wineries from books or from social media or sometimes directly from the producer, but they are building up experience. And that experience is very, very valuable. So I think now we're in a bit of a transition stage. I've seen in the US where we had buyer and people in the flow who've left to take maybe distribution job or change complete jobs, and you have another generation who have access to tons of knowledge. So how do they filter that knowledge to be effective? I think it's the key.
I think basically we talked about a lot of people are promoted in this industry at a quick rate, sometimes because a position needs to be filled.
Sure, exactly.
But maybe the mentorship wasn't there on terms of the transition stage. You could be a very good waiter or server or bartender, and then the moment you're put into a beverage buyer situation, you may have never seen how to do that. And I think those are the complicated things we're dealing with now.
But the good thing is in restaurants, I think you learn fast.
Yeah, I think that you have to.
You have to, because you see what works, what doesn't, like instantly.
Yeah.
If you're building a strategy in an office and you're talking, big talk, and then you come to the restaurants and you talk to the staff and tells you, no, that's not what's happening. It's almost like a reality check to go to a restaurant, because you're facing the final consumers. And the wine industry is one of those industries that we normally don't know the final people that we sell wine to.
Yeah.
Like the guy who sells the car knows the guy who is in that car. The
You
guy
got
who
to rely
sells
on the story being told again.
Exactly. It's always like a story being told again and again and again. So,
and I think something you said too about listening to the guest. A conversation of, if someone is asking for a very sharp, clean wine,
Exactly.
you're not going to give them a Baresh or something that's like very oxidative or heavy, because they'll be like, well, this is not what I'm asking for.
Exactly.
So to listen to that.
Yeah, you're right.
But that education, I mean, it used to be, I remember, 20 years ago when I started in this industry, particularly, it was very much about education and that mentorship. And I think that because it is just not as much today, obviously. And I think that we're trying to convince hotel operators and other folks that we do consulting for, that's important. And
You have to invest in it.
We're just trying to move on the floor. And I think there definitely needs to be that. And like, there's all these new mediums, such as what we're doing now, and so that's our goal, is to get to make it fun, but also tell people about.
Let's force fun.
Yeah, literally, we need a button of fun in the middle, because at the end of the day, if you're not having fun, drinking wine and or going to good dinners, then you've kind of lost the point. I think that we went through that period in this industry too, where everything was like a little too serious. Right? Remember that, right? And so now we need to kind of come back a little bit and be like, okay, well, we still need to know what we're talking about here, right?
Sure.
Right. So I mean, do you see? I mean, I don't know. Me and John talk about this all the time. So like we banter. I mean, it's just how do we? What is it going to look like in the future? Are we going to get there? Is it going to look more like this? Are people going to, the studying for your SOM test has become less and less. You know what I mean? It's more about like getting that knowledge in other areas. So, anyways, I digress. Let's continue to move on. So
I think the challenge for me is we talked again about this, but declining wine sales. I think everyone talks about this, right?
Sure.
And we're seeing a change. I think one of the reasons we have changed, we can get into many, many complexes of that generation, the next generation. I don't know if it's the same in Europe, but I know that a lot of the data points in the US. But how do we make wine accessible? How do we make wine, as he's saying, fun, right? Specifically, I think we went through this real big peak where, and I think Paris is a big example of this, where the natty wine scene, the rejection of classic wine culture, and now it's at such a plateau, it's also unaffordable. So what it started out being is now also on its own plateau. I'm curious with the next generations, how do we bring them into saying not only is wine a great beverage, but the health benefits versus the social benefits of a communal place to drink.
we were just talking about this yesterday.
Yeah, because I think that if you look at the data, and I don't know if you agree with this, but there's a declining wine sales. I think that the younger generation is seeing it as unhealthy, and I don't think any of us can argue that alcohol consumption that's like no rate of it's probably healthy from a biological standpoint. But I actually think that we're missing the concept of the communal nature of going to a pub, going and having a glass of wine at dinner, and getting to talk to people over the table is very important.
Sure.
And if you want to know how romantic I am about France, because I came back from Burgundy and Champagne, is like the dichotomy between food and beverage is inseparable. Mm-hmm. And I think that in Italy's the same. And it's like if you sit down at the table, you're getting a glass of wine, maybe a bottle of wine, maybe another one. And I think that when you talk about the social benefit of drinking is not about getting sloshed, but it is the connection with people.
I mean, we talked about this yesterday, and it kind of to bleed onto this is like the Gen Z generation doesn't really go out as much. I mean, they're digital natives. They're not, and they're socially inept. That's the problem. Is like they're By the way, I love the Gen Z folks here. They're great, right? But
that's why we're doing this podcast.
We're just putting it back. No, but my point being is there's some truth to that. I mean, I think that there's a lot to come from. That's why I like going to Europe, to France, to Italy, to Spain, because you get out and you talk to people. And you break bread and you drink wine, and this is...
We might romanticize it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, we romanticize it because it doesn't happen here as much. It's a little more clunky.
But you travel a lot more than we do for this.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're bantering, but we're curious to hear your input, obviously. Like, what are your thoughts on that switch, over?
Or where you see it's going.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I don't know. It's a very hard question right now. I even thought at some point that spirits or eatables, for example, were part of the equation. Like people stay at home, make cocktails, take eatables and stuff, and maybe they are replacing wine with something else. I think I'm not so sure about that.
I don't think so either.
I've talked to some people in industry here, and actually, yeah, they don't think that anymore. It was a trend where...
I think it's a trend.
Yeah.
I also think during COVID, it's easy to say people make cocktails at home, but what my dad's been in the restaurant industry for a long time. What people don't want to do is things that are challenging at home.
Sure.
We can make kits, we can do everything we can, but people don't want to cook at home. They don't want to make fried chicken at home. They don't want to make pizza at home, and they certainly don't want to make cocktails, because all of those things require advanced prep and work.
Right.
Well, so, I think the key point there is that it's not just the manufacturer thing, which is difficult for most people. It's the experience. You go into a restaurant, the lighting, the people, the touch, the all of that is experiential. Like I want, like, even if I can make it better, which hopefully I can't if I'm at that restaurant or drinking that bottle of wine, I want there to go to have that experience, and buy the ticket and ride the ride. I go to work every day, I do my 9 to 5, and I need that release. I don't want to go home and make the food. I mean, what do you, I
agree with what you say. Yeah. I agree. Makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have so much to add to what you guys already said. I mean, my guess is that by the natural way of things, as people go and grow old, from 20 to 30s, they'll start to poke into more wine, and that's when we should not miss that opportunity.
Yeah, there's that transitional moment.
Exactly. I think it's silly to try to convince maybe someone that's in his early 20s to drink grower champagne. I think
you're.
It's like you're facing something that's almost.
I say this all the time as
it's timing. It's all
timing.
about timing.
I think you've nailed it, because I think one of the things that gives me solace in a lot of ways is like I look back when I was in my 20s, and it was value oriented. Sure. How much can I consume for what price point?
I mean, I was drinking Grande champagne in my 20s, but I was in the. It matters if you're in the industry or not.
Yeah, of course.
If you're in the industry, then I think that you get exposed to a lot more. But if
I still think that
if you work in finance and maybe you're not exactly.
You don't make enough income at certain levels as well. At a certain point, you say
I couldn't afford your wine, maybe, but
yeah, timing, and that's where we need collectively in the industry to seize that moment where the guys poke his head at a retail store or ask a question in the restaurant, and he doesn't feel like
he's being
he should not
talked down to.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's the big one.
He should be rising up.
We should bring people with us.
That's a great question. That's a great wine to start with, and even make the guy comfortable and bring him something maybe more serious. But you understand why people also need to understand why they're paying money for stuff.
I agree.
That's why champagne and like we produce and collectively growers in champagne works is because there is sincerity and there is people know what they're drinking, so they understand why they're paying for shit. So I think it's part of the drill.
The timing part is one I've never thought about. I'm going to use that now. It's about timing. We must capture them, and again, get them on the boat.
Exactly.
Don't be gatekeepers. Because I think for a long time, the old guard, the guys, the much older, it was a lot of like, well, you're not in this yet.
Yeah.
We should say, come with us on this journey.
Totally.
And I think that the great programs are doing that. That's
making it accessible is the key point. I mean, again, I think that's aside from us enjoying champagne and talking to fun guys like yourself. I think this is the whole direction of what we want to do is we want to preach the gospel. But the most important thing is that you got to leave bottles for us, right? So we don't want to get too excited.
Well, tell them what you ordered online.
Well, I ordered the 96 mag from you guys and it didn't come in time. We were going to open the mag, but probably...
he's going, thank God you didn't open the mag. We don't have...
But honestly...
I'd be excited. I don't have them in a winery really anymore. So.
Well, you did tell me. It was like I had the last bottles of the Parcells in Magnum or for that vintage.
Oh, the 2019.
Yeah, and you said that was a...
Which vintage?
This is actually a deviation, but tell me, why would... You said something to me that I had to go look up. And it was a term you used about the prolonged nature of aging it in cork and Magnum.
But the mags,
cork élevage, yeah.
Yeah, it's fermented under cork for the second fermentation.
But you used an interesting term there. I'll have to find it next time. But
Tiré-liège is what I said.
Yes.
Tiré is it stands for bottling and liège for the cork. Okay. So it's bottled under cork.
But you said it was one of the hardest vintages you've ever made, hardest bottlings you've ever done.
Yeah, I mean it's a lot of work, when you put bottle of champagne under cork for second fermentation. It takes you 3 times more time.
Yeah.
Than if you put it under caps at every step of the way.
Yeah.
But it's very rewarding, and I wish I had made more. But the problem in 19, you know what, is that COVID again, and there was no glasses available.
That makes total sense. I didn't even think about that, right?
So we had to make decisions. Okay, how many mags of the single vineyards? We made 25 mags of the single vineyard of one of the greatest vintage in Champagne of my generation. And my daughter was born in 2019, the very first day of the harvest, and I only was able to make 25 mags. We drank quite a bit of already of that.
How many got left?
Not many. For some cuvées.
I'll tell you what, we opened it at my family-in-law's Easter, and they guzzled it down before I even got a glass, so it was interesting.
Not only U.S., though, globally. So the question is, wine program, best wine program, we're putting you on the spot here, right? U.S., best wine program globally.
Yeah. Just who are some programs right now that are inspiring you? What are some good markets for you? Maybe U.S.?
Well, I mean, that's a good question too, honestly.
Because I think we just talked about there's a lot of emerging markets. You said New York is New York in the car.
New York was there first.
Yeah.
When nobody cared, but New York was the first one to give an outlet and an opportunity
Keep the light on, right?
to keep it on for small wineries from Champagne. So New York always holds a special place, I think,
Always.
for Champenois.
What's your favorite place to drink wine and the best wine list in New York, you think, right now?
Oh, don't offend anybody.
Not a fan. Hey, I just like to go to this place. It's awesome. I would get bloody there, right? But
Well, that's the thing.
It's a hard
with-
one in New York,
with
it
New
really
York,
is.
we just did an event at Crown Chai. That list is pretty solid. But that is the beauty of New York.
It's
is
insane.
That I could
it's
give.
insane. Yeah, there's so many
But
options.
so is the price. No offense.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
It's
there are historic places like Terroir.
Yeah,
That's all right.
And Corkbuzz.
Yeah.
There, those are for me the two places. There is Pascaline, who's always been a strong
Chambers.
supporter
Chambers,
of
yeah.
Champagne. There is so many people.
Well, what about in Europe? What's your favorite restaurant, the best wine list, or favorite wine bar in Europe? Like just for you personally, like where would you go if you had to pick one?
Well, first off, come to Champagne. I mean, that's
Yeah.
where you'll get the best prices and the best back vintages and the most, different cuvées that you might not see here, even in New York. So Champagne is the number one destination, and I think Paris, and I think after that, it has to be the northern part of Italy, especially in Piedmont. Those
Every single champagne maker says this.
and
Really?
probably Japan.
Every
after.
single person says the biggest champagne market is you gotta go to Piedmont.
I was just in Torino a couple of years ago, and a lot of champagne on the list, right?
Yeah, Milano,
Yeah.
in big cities, and also within the vineyards area, Alba and so on.
You think that's because they're drinking so much Barolo? They want something a little more light and refreshing?
Yeah, it's
Tannins
very.
are a little heavy.
Because what is that? That there's got to be a cultural thing there too. I mean, I know the influence of Burgundy on
Sure.
on Piedmont is big,
Yeah,
but specifically Champagne, I've got to think it's probably like I can't drink more Barolo.
And
I'd
a palate
rather have
cleanser, right?
something.
yeah, I think it's a combination of many things. Taste-wise, the Italians, they always like the bitter. They like the oxidative tones. They like intense
Yeah.
drinks, I think, in
Yeah.
general. And Champagne provides that, especially with aged Champagne. So,
Yeah.
I mean, the Italians are very enthusiastic in a very positive way. And I don't say that just to make it up. We have some Italian people actually who married some Champenois who've told me that. I actually asked them what's going on with Italian people. Why are they so crazy about Champagne right now? And they told me, well, in Italy it's very custom. If one of us found something that they like, they'll tell all their friends.
What's
And their friends will tell all their friends.
You know
And
what's
we
interesting,
see that.
Canton, is I might be from Kentucky, but I'm actually an Italian citizen as well.
It's all
It
coming
should
together. It makes
explain
sense now.
everything to you right now.
Right.
Okay.
Well, that's awesome. So are your sales then in Italy, pretty high then? Is that kind of what you're insinuating? Percentage
Yeah,
wise?
yeah, for sure. Italy, Spain are very important. We see a rise also in Northern Europe because they have such good cuisine,
Yeah.
that match the
You're talking
Champagne.
about some of the fancy restaurants.
In the Scandinavians,
yeah,
yes,
the
for sure.
Scandinavians for sure.
Yeah, the prices are high because they have high, tax and so
For sure.
on. But
They're reasonable, I would say, in general. Like when we go to Europe as Americans, I think we have some of the highest prices
Sure.
personally.
yeah.
Maybe Asia.
And Japan is a relatively new market, but they started to really get into Champagne in the last
It goes
25
it
years.
goes quite well with the cuisine, obviously.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, for sure.
particularly sushi. Spent a lot of time at Omazaki drinking champagnes. I know we didn't touch on this. I'm curious to hear obviously that it started obviously in Paris, but that rise of that whole natty thing, and then it kind of went too far. Like I'm always curious from somebody that you guys obviously make what is arguably natural wine, right? And I think, but like that scene kind of went in this direction that was a little wild, and so I'm just curious what your thoughts are on that, like terminology and that like marketing and how you feel like you fit in that scenario or don't.
I think if we were in the 90s, natural wine would be living on a dream for many, many years, because the climate now doesn't allow you to mistake, because we have lower acidity, higher pH. And if you don't use sulfur in the winery, you have to be extremely precise.
Sure.
To clarify, you are saying that the main precedent of natty wine is the use or non-use of sulfur.
Sulfur, yeah.
You
They
mean
do
none?
harp on that, right? I mean,
Well, I'm
I'm
misunderstood
just
you.
saying is no. I think what you said is correct, but I just want to like clarify for listeners, because natty, I have a real hard time with the term.
they're just the marketing of it.
You mean natural wine?
Yes, because you're saying that the only thing that makes it natural is the use or non-use of sulfur.
In my understanding, at the very beginning, that's something that customers could actually taste.
Yeah.
Is sulfur. I
Yeah.
mean, we grow organic at the winery. We're certified organic, and the final pieces, when after you harvest the fruit, is your sulfur management.
sulfur.
And whether you use it or not has a significant impact onto the taste.
No question.
And if for someone who is not, well informed about viticulture and winemaking, it's an easy shortcut to tell them this is sulfur free.
Yes.
And that leads to potential, aromatic, which you like or you don't like. But it's something that people can, it's an easy shortcut.
Yeah.
But it's something that people can grasp.
Yeah.
Going into detail about soil management and vine selections and pH and acid, you lose the guy. Like,
It's not fun.
no, it's not fun. And the word free is quite exciting. It's free. The
it's
wine
simple.
is free, sulfur free.
But I think what Josh is saying is the movement got so out of hand in a lot of ways.
But like your wine, I mean, for what the general idea, you already are doing a lot of that, right? I mean,
Yes.
From the soil management
Yeah,
to
soil management,
what are you adding to it
natural
that's
yeast.
non-natural?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah.
I don't know. I think
that movement's losing legs.
For us, it's like, I don't want to drink wine that's not
Fermented
solid.
grape juice.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and unfortunately, you get into those scenarios. And I think that's.
I think people are better educated about fault. I think people are more conscientious about their spending, so they want to spend money onto a bottle of wine. They might allow for like a surprise wine that's very funky, but do they want to repeat that experience? I don't know. Do some want to buy wine from one vintage to another, and he doesn't know whether, even if he does his best to try everything before, sometimes you have surprises. You have mousy wines that sometimes you taste at one point, it's clean, and then 6 months later, that wine is like, wow, what's going on? So you, of course, you hide it away in the cellar again for 6 months.
It's interesting that I don't want to call the person out. When we were in Champagne, they were like, "Oh, we set these barrels aside. There's something wrong. And we think it's mousy," which is also I actually that's one of those I need somebody to still bring me a bottle so I can do a side by side to understand the flavor. But they were like, "Oh, I've never tasted it." So we tasted the wine, and they were like, "Ooh la la, it's different." And they said, "I think it's changed." And they were like, "I'm still going to keep the barrels over here." But it was just as you said, it's like sometimes you can't even understand, like, what happened here? I don't know what happened. I mean, at the end of the day, these are natural products, as we're saying. So things happen. You can only do the best that you can as an alchemist to change this thing.
Sure.
But you can't control the overall end. It will have a life of its own. It's still biological. It's still living. And I think that when we talk about great wine production and the romance of great wine is that there's always this perfect place where the bottle is tasting, and then it changes. And maybe...
I mean, we all know that. We've opened an old bottle of Burgundy, and you're like, all right, we got like 15 minutes here, guys. Let's go. Right? And so, you've been there.
Josh is just chugging the
Tick-tack, tick-tack.
But no, I think it's, obviously we're being playful and a little silly with it, but I think it's an interesting conversation. I think that we're all having behind closed doors as industry professionals is that scene and what's good about it, because there's a lot of good. Like we talked about earlier, like Gen Z and wine drinking, and that's awesome. Like we're getting more people drinking wine.
Sure.
Right, but I think there are some uneducated, misinformed scenarios there in some scenarios. Not all of them.
We're gearing up towards our ending of rapid fire, but I have one last question that's for you to take This is your speech at the Oscars.
Oh man.
Because we've talked about a lot of challenge and other things. What's inspiring you right now? Like, what's your outlook on not just champagne, but the hospitality world? Because inevitably we live in this together, right? The person that sells wine, the person that makes the wine. Wax poetic about what you love about this industry. Why are you in it?
I mean, it's as simple as saying, it's like people like you too, like people who are interested about us opening bottle of wine, sharing it, telling the story. And like you said at the very beginning of the show, I think wines is, of course, it's an alcohol beverage, but it brings life to the table. It puts people together. It engages conversation. You laugh. You get mad. You just leave, And so I think in the future, for us, we're excited to have, wine outside of Bouzy, continue to do what we've done with my border for the last 10 years, but take it to even, different level, get deeper. Wine is exciting, it's changing every year. The industry is also, we talked a little bit about the generation shift after COVID. So how do it feels like the barrier is always 28, it's like, how do you deal with that? When you're 28 yourself.
Maybe that's you getting older.
But when you're 28 yourself, you feel all right, you're comfortable zone. But
Yeah.
as you go older as a winemaker and you talk to people, you also have to realize, okay, those people didn't necessarily evolve or took knowledge as you did. So maybe you need to go back a little bit into how much you can actually share or how detailed you go and stuff like that. But mostly it's been very, very positive. The last 15 years in the industry.
It's incredible.
COVID maybe was a little retro in the history of let's say, putting champagne and fine wine at the table and sharing it with people. But in the grand course of skiing, we're on the right track, I think.
I mean, it's been super exciting to, I mean, even in the past, 4 or 5 years when me and John have, really kind of went down the rabbit hole deep on champagne is that I've seen,
And by the
champagne
way,
grow.
a positive of COVID because we didn't have a lot to do.
Yeah.
So we liked champagne, but we got really obsessive.
So me and John were during COVID Zoom calls, just nerding out, and I think he was doing another wine study, but I got obsessed with champagne. He's like, "Why do you just always talk about champagne?" And then
I was studying for another exam, and he kept deviating, and I said, "I need to learn about Italy and Burgundy." And
I'm like, let's talk about champagne. Let's get it right.
I came back to the. But do the rapid fire, shall we?
So we call this section Discord. So essentially, this is rapid fire, right? Rapid fire questions. So it's meant to be whatever hits the top of your head quickly.
Okay. Don't think too hard.
Exactly. So, what's one champagne not your own that you wish you made?
Oh man,
That's a fucking hard one right off the bat.
I'm getting heavy.
Église Red.
Oh,
What is it?
You're talking about the Coteau?
Yeah.
Oh,
All right.
Eagly
Oh,
Coteau.
Eagly. Oh yeah. Okay. Great. That's great. Desert Island champagne. You're taking one bottle. What is it?
Vintage is 64 from maybe from Krug. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. All right. Give me one of those.
I love that. You're crushing right now.
Most underrated Ludi and Bouzy.
Most underrated. There's a lieu-dit called Mont Détour. It's more flat, very thin soil, choke underneath. Maybe something good can potentially come out of there. But honestly, the vineyards on the slope is always better. So
Yeah.
That's awesome. Favorite food and wine city in the world?
favorite food. The French, I think in general, we like to eat stuff that's not French when we go outside of France. We love, taco for lunch. That's
all right. I dig it. Cellar, you're only allowed 3 vintages of your wines. What years are you keeping?
64, 69, and 02.
64, 69, and 02. I have not drank a lot of 64, 69.
No, I don't think I ever probably will. But
favorite wine specific that is not champagne?
Favorite Burgundy. Yeah.
I mean, that's an easy one, right?
so
Of
are
course.
you going red or white?
Oh, there you go.
Probably red. Yeah. Côte
Probably
de
red.
Nuit.
Okay.
Côte de Nuit. Yeah.
I mean, that's should be expected. I'm right there with you. Although I do love white berg. Best meal you've ever had that you can remember. And where was it?
Yeah, be specific.
Probably in Cassis. There is down in south of France next to Bandel. There is a fantastic restaurant there, which of course I just forgot the name.
That's what happens when you drink a bottle of champagne.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. But that's probably up there.
You'll never know the name of this restaurant.
It's now a 3-star Michelin
Oh,
restaurant.
it's
Back then
Le
it was
Beau.
2.
Le Beau. I know.
Help me out there, man.
I know what it is. I know what you're talking about.
keep remembering.
It's got the hotel attached. Yes.
No, it's a restaurant, but whatever.
Oh.
Well,
He's the Michelin star nerd over here. So
yeah. But in Champagne, we're very fortunate. Also, we have, I think, one of the top chefs in the world with Arnaud Lallemand. And I think I was maybe 26, 27 the first time I went there, and that was memorable also.
I would say I'm a huge advocate of that restaurant as well.
I've not been. I've got to add to my
L'Assiette
list.
Champenois.
L'Assiette Champenoise.
All right, I'm going to keep it going. If you could plant one grape in Champagne outside of the AOC rules, what would it be?
You could have any grape.
Outside of the AOC. If you could say, you know what, we get to do this, let's do it.
Maybe Sauvignon.
Yeah.
Or-
Sauvignon, okay.
Yeah. The saltiness to it.
Yeah.
Salinity there on the chalk. Another champagne producer who is really inspiring you right now.
Oh. I don't know. Not really anyone.
No one's.
I like the wines.
That was the best answer, actually. I don't know. This is my
drink
buddies.
Many growers, many champagne house wine, but I've never said to myself, I need to do what they're doing.
Canton is not saying he does not like other growers. He's just
You still have friends in Champagne, I assume,
he's
right?
merely saying he's going to stay on his own track.
All right.
That's right. Thanks. That's to clarify.
I just wanted to clarify.
Our cellar is full of champagne that's not ours.
Yes,
just
yes.
To clarify.
Of course, there's a lot of good champagne producers, but you don't like any of them. No, I'm joking. Most underrated terroir in Champagne.
Oh, it's hard because you have dudes like you who now put their finger into like the smallest terroir that even us sometimes
I don't know about that good, but yeah, know a few.
We just released the wine from Tessie.
Tessie,
Nobody has
All
a
right.
clue. where
I've
that
never even heard of that.
is.
When you brought that the other week, I was like, "What is?"
But
this?
it's good. It's
What is the wine? Tell me more about the wine.
It's Meunier.
north
The
facing
Meunier one,
vineyards.
okay, yeah.
It's very close to us.
Nice. I got to try
Close
that one.
close to Lutz too, right in the
Yeah.
Oh, Dizzy, yeah, right there, yeah.
yeah.
So most overrated terroir in Champagne. Oh, this is gonna get you in trouble.
Ooh, overrated. Close in general. Any
Just
type
close.
of close.
Oh,
Wild
right.
vineyards, yeah.
You're
okay.
saying just anyone that's using the single like clos doesn't.
In general, close. It's an enclosed vineyards in Champagne that doesn't really mean a lot
Okay.
outside of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they command some crazy prices too, right? So, if you go anywhere in the world right now to eat, where would you go and why? If you could just transport there, where would you go? And Trank. The wine list matters.
I don't know.
I don't know.
John's more about the food.
Don't put the baby in the box.
Hi, it's very hard. Let's say maybe let's go back to Italy. Alba. I went there only once, and I wish I would go back there.
Yeah.
During the months of January when it's truffle season. That's
Are you saying go in the winter?
yeah.
Oh yeah, of course you got to go when it's like full season, right?
Yeah. Okay.
All right, what do we got next? Favorite food and wine pairing. We are in Kentucky. Just throwing that out there.
So fried chicken and champagne,
Oh.
of course.
No, seriously. What is your favorite pairing? What are you gonna put in the restaurant?
Restaurants. I think scallops with a bit of parmesan and olive oil with champagne. It's a
like
no-brainer.
Very very fat oriented, right? The scallops are unctuous and
Exactly.
rich.
But the parmesan with the salt,
Salt.
that saltiness, and the olive oil for link all this together, and champagne is easy, but it's probably the most killing pairing you can do in
Can
champagne.
we bring it in, please? One practice in the cellar or venue you've changed your mind about in the last 5 years?
oh.
We started, of course, to use different kind of vessel like terracotta and like amphoras and stuff like that. They finish in our garden. You know, like it's not really.
You don't use them anymore.
No.
Yeah,
We
no
use
more.
them to put trees and things.
All right, and then one practice. Okay, that's the last one. So here's the final round. The future of grower champagne movement is
Fire. Is fire.
fire.
Oh, it's hot.
It's hot. Okay,
He's
it's hot.
using like it's hot.
It's hot. We're talking the jitney now here, right? We're back full circle, right? Awesome. Well, this has been amazing. We really appreciate you coming
Thanks.
and chatting with us, and you know, hopefully we'd love to have you back. We've been talking about this, you know, maybe next year. We're La Farm. I'm gonna go ahead and.
Oh, dear God.
Dear God.
Yeah, no, I love it. Let's get them. Let's get all
So-
of the champagne producers to come to a big party on a farm in Kentucky. What do you say?
Why
Yeah,
not?
I mean,
Yeah, it sounds great.
It could be a lot of fun. We'll fry up some chicken and we'll get some caviar and we'll
Yeah.
throw a fucking party.
I just bought a farm, and so we have the whole space, and we can go and.
Why am I not surprised after knowing you for
Yeah, totally.
so long?
But,
But yeah, Canton, cheers, man.
Cheers.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
all right.
Love you.